family. How's everybody today? Family, hopefully this video is not long at all, but we're going to touch on the Feast of Tabernacles, or some people call it the Feast of Booths. Some say Sukkot in Hebrew, but we're just going to go over what it is. We'll read some scriptures, and at the very last, we'll talk about how all the feast days and the Ark of the Covenant is a precursor or foreshadow to Mashiach himself. And we'll see, that the same elements that were in the tabernacle and in the outer court where the ark was pretty much relates to Mashiach himself. And we'll see that a little later on in this video, okay? The Feast of Tabernacles, this is the last fall feast of this year, okay? It's also a remembrance of our people in the wilderness for 40 years, dwelling in tents, and how the Most High provided for them. And so we always remember this. It was also important for another reason. That was the people brought their tithes each year, bringing 1/10 of their harvest, whatever they had, from the field and livestock. So there again, we see that the Most High was pretty clear, when he had these feasts, what was to be offered. He didn't tell anybody to offer any money, okay? So we have to keep that straight and in context, because some people try to make it about money, and that's not what the Most High said at all. Okay. We read the scriptures, and the Most High is pretty clear on how he wants it kept. And it's forever. Even in the reign of Mashiach, we'll still be keeping the Feast of Tabernacles. So it's just not for today, okay? It's pretty much permanent, okay? So let's go into some scriptures here. We'll read a few references to the Feast of Tabernacles, and also we're going to connect it to Mashiach. Now, all the feast days, like I say, and the Ark of the Covenant are directly attached to Mashiach. But since we're talking about the Feast of Tabernacles today, then that's the one we're referred to, okay? So, let's see here. Let's start off in Deuteronomy, chapter 16, verse 13. Thou shalt observe the Feast of Tabernacles 7 days. After that, thou hast gathered in thy corn and thy wine. Okay. Leviticus 23, verse 33 through 36. And the Most High spoke unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, The 15th day of this 7th month shall be the Feast of Tabernacles for 7 days unto the Most High. On the first day shall be a holy convocation. You shall do no servile work therein. Verse 36. 7 days you shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Most High, and on the 8th day shall be a holy convocation unto you. And you shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Most High. It is a solemn assembly, and you shall do no servile work therein. Okay? Let's see another reference here. Psalms 118, verse 15. The voice of rejoicing and salvation is in the tabernacles of the righteous. The right hand of the Most High doeth valiantly. Okay. Let's go to John, chapter 1, verse 2. After these things, Mashiach walked in Galilee, for he would not walk in Jewry, because the Jews sought to kill him. Now the Jews' feast of tabernacles was at hand. See, Mashiach was there, while their tabernacle was at hand. Okay. Second Chronicles, chapter 8, verse 12 through 13. Now, then Solomon offered burnt offerings unto the Most High on the altar of the Most High, which he had built before the porch, even after a certain rate every day, offering according to the commandment of Moses, on the Sabbaths, and on the new moons, and on the solemn feasts, 3 times in the year, even in the feast of unleavened bread, and in the feast of weeks, and in the feast of tabernacles. Okay. We can read in, let's see, what is that? The book of Ezra, chapter 3, verse 2 through 4. And see, this was at the time, they had returned to the temple. It said, then stood up Jeshua, the son of Jozadak, and his brother the priest, Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel, and his brother, and built an altar of the Most High of Israel, to offer burnt offerings thereon, as it is written in the law of Moses, the man of Elohim. And they set upon the altar of his bases, for fear was upon them because of the people of those countries. And they offered burnt offerings thereon unto the Most High, even burnt offerings morning and evening. They kept also the Feast of Tabernacles, as it is written, and offered the daily burnt offerings by number, according to the custom, as the duty of every day required. Okay, let's go down to where Solomon, was building the temple. Then Solomon assembled the elders. 1 Kings chapter 8, verse 8 through 2. 8 and 2. Then Solomon assembled the elders of Israel and all the heads of the tribes, the chief of the fathers of the children of Israel, unto King Solomon in Jerusalem, that they might bring up the ark of the covenant of the Most High out of the city of David, which is Zion. And all the men of Israel assembled themselves unto King Solomon at the feast in the month Ethanim, which is the 7th month. Okay. So we see they were keeping it. Which one of these verses? Okay. Let's read about how it's still going to have to be kept, family. It's just eternal. And we're going to have to keep this. Zechariah chapter 14, verse 16 through 18. And it shall come to pass that everyone that is left of the nations which came against Jerusalem shall even go up from year to year to worship the King, the Elohim of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. 17. And it shall be that whoso will not come up of all the families of the earth unto Jerusalem to worship the King, the Elohim of hosts, even upon them shall be no rain. And if the family of Egypt go not up, and come not up, that have no rain, there shall be the plague, wherewith the Most High will smite the heathen that come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. See, it's perpetual. We're going to always be keeping it, family. So don't let nobody tell you we don't have to keep it. Now, it is some discrepancy, I know among Israel about the correct date, I've talked to 3 different assemblies, and you get 3 different calendars, okay? So we're not going to go into no beef about that. We're just really discussing today, what this day meant, the Feast of Tabernacles is. Okay. So, let me see. Where is that? I don't want to lose it. Okay. Now let's kind of tie this thing to Mashiach. Okay. I'm going to read Deuteronomy chapter 29 and 16. For ye know how we have dwelt in the land of Egypt, and how we came through the nations which you passed by. Now what I want you to pay attention to, family, is the word dwelt. D-W-E-L-T. Because in the Torah and in the Gospels, it kind of take on a slightly different meaning. Okay? And we'll see that. In Deuteronomy, when you look it up, it'll be the Hebrew word. It'll be H34:27. It says, to dwell, to remain, to abide, to be inhabited, to set place. Okay? Now that's in Deuteronomy 29:16. Now let's go to John 1:14. And the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us. There's the word dwelt again, okay? And we beheld his glory, the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. Okay? Now that translation would be the Strong's number G4637. And it can be said, okay, let me reread the verse and show you how it would fit in, because this definition say tabernacle, to dwell. All right? Let me read the verse again. And the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us. So, in this definition, the word dwelt means that he tabernacled among us. See? I'm going to read it one more time, and I'm going to use the word tabernacle. And the Word was made flesh, and he tabernacled among us. And we beheld his glory, the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. We say, okay, well, how is he tabernacled among us? Because Mashiach is our tabernacle. Okay? That's why I chose that definition. So let's see. Um, let's go ahead and make the connection. Okay. Now, the tabernacle was surrounded, by a border or a wall. All right. And it was surrounded, I guess, made with linen curtains and things like that. But what that represented was the separation between the Most High and his people. The Most High is holy, and our sin separated us. So that's what that outer border or wall represented. All right. Now you go to the door of the tabernacle. It was only one door. It was only one way you could go in and one way you could come out, okay? And that door represented, the Most High's desire, to draw us near. Now, if we look in John chapter 10, verse 9, Mashiach said, I am the door or the gate, however you want to say that. And everybody was allowed to enter, his gates and dwell in the outer court. All right? So, Mashiach was representing that one door. That's the only way we have access to the Most High, through him. One door. It's not several doors. Mashiach tells us, that he's the way. Anybody try to climb up some other kind of way is the same as a thief and a robber. He is the door. Okay? Now, as you first go into the courtyard, of the tabernacle, it's two objects sitting there. It's the altar of burnt offering. It was, found inside the tabernacle. It was kind of bronze altar of, the burnt offering, where the animals were sacrificed. And only the priest made the sacrifices. One was for atonement for sins, and the second one was for thanksgiving, praise, or worship to the Most High. Let's see. In the Old Testament, a bull, a goat, or lamb would be sacrificed. But in the New Testament, we find out that it is Mashiach, the final sacrifice. This is why we don't have to do that with animals anymore. And then it's a basin inside there. That holds water. And that's where the priests would go in, and cleanse themselves. And it's also called a laver, Laver, the priests cleanse themselves daily before meeting with Elohim. And that represents that, we need a daily cleansing before the Most High. And how do we do that? We are, we're made clean or made holy through daily confession and forgiveness of sins. See, we have to wash too. Hebrews 10:14 says, for by one sacrifice he has made perfect forever those who are being made holy. And another way that basin or laver, whichever one you want to call it, relates to the Mashiach would be found in John chapter 4. It said, Mashiach answered her, if you knew the gift of Elohim and who it is that asked you for a drink, you would have asked him and he would have given you water. Everyone who drinks water will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give them will become in them a spring of water welling up to eternal life. See, so Mashiach is connected to the water. You know, he is the water. And in the back of the tabernacle courtyard, it was a kind of enclosed area called the holy place. You know, the holy place was covered with something like a tent, you know, with several layers of linen and goat hair fabric, you know, and animal skins. And only a priest could enter the holy place. This area was divided into two parts. It was the holy place, and it was the most holy place, which we call the Holy of Holies, or the inner sanctuary. And those two parts were separated, you know, by a veil or a curtain, if you will. And inside the holy place with three more things that pointed to Mashiach. All right. It was a table and the bread of presence. One of the elements located within the holy place was the table with the bread of presence. And the bread of presence is also called the showbread. You remember hearing that before in scriptures about the showbread? And you know, the bread of presence, it consisted of 12 loaves of bread, you know, placed on the table as an offering to the Most High. Why 12? Could it be representing the 12 tribes? I really believe so. Let's see how that relates to Mashiach. John 6:35. Then Mashiach declared, I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never go hungry, and whoever believes in me will never go thirsty. See, there's the water again, and the bread. And that's why in the temple it has something representing the bread of life. Okay? And called the showbread. Okay, also inside the holy place, it was a golden lampstand. You know, it provided light, you know, to the area, and it represented the light of the Most High's presence with us. In John chapter 8, verse 12, Mashiach said, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but we'll have the light of life. See how all those things just tie right in. Every item in that tabernacle had special meaning, and it all was pointing to Mashiach of who he was. It had a altar of incense. You know, that was burned day and night, you know, representing our prayers, you know, rising up as a sweet fragrance or scent, you know, to the Most High. We can read that in Psalms 141 verse 2. It says, let my prayer be counted as incense before you, and the lifting up of my hands as the evening sacrifice. You know, because we are believers, you know, we're carrying the fragrance of Mashiach, his scent, as you will, of Mashiach. And also, you can read 2 Corinthians 2:15, for we are to the Most High the pleasing aroma of Christ among those who are being saved and those who are perishing. See, everything in there had meaning, family. It just wasn't no accident, something the Most High decided, well, okay, stick this in here and I'm going to decorate it with this. And no, all of it had meaning. Now, the Holy of Holies, which was separated from the holy place, only the high priest could go in there, to atone for the people's sin, Uh, that was the last and most sacred item, the ark, also called, the Ark of the Covenant or the Ark of the Testimony, which Mashiach became. He is the Ark of the Covenant. Inside that ark, it contains Aaron's rod, which represented the Most High's grace to deliver, a pot of manna, which the Most High's power to provide, he fed our people, and the tablets, also called the testimony or the Ten Commandments. And we know that the Ark of the Covenant had a mercy seat, and it was made of pure gold with two cherubim facing one another, and the Most High's presence, dwelt there above, the atonement seat. And so all of these attributes are the foreshadowing of Mashiach. He is our Ark of the Covenant. He is our mercy seat. Okay? And we only enter into relationship with the Most High through him. Like he said that, like there's only one door or gate that you can go in to go inside the tabernacle. Mashiach is to be in the presence of the Most High. There's only one door that we can go through to be reconciled back to the Most High, and that's through Mashiach. He's the door. From Genesis all the way to Revelation, it's all about the Most High. After the fall of man, it all is about him regathering his people to dwell with them. That's what he always wanted to do. It was dwell with his man, his creation. And so he put the plan into effect. Okay? It's always been in effect, and that's why I can't understand Torah-only people. How can you do that without seeing the plan for redemption and salvation through Mashiach? That plan been in effect all throughout the scriptures. All throughout the Torah, it's always about the Most High regathering us and wanting to dwell with us again in the very last book of the scriptures, in Revelation. That is his last statement, that he's going to dwell again with man. That's been his desire all along. So you can't deny that. All right? But yeah, family, that's just kind of a quick briefing on what it is. And I advise everybody to really study these feast days for yourself. Okay? There's no excuse. We all have the scriptures in one form or another, whether it's electronic or whether it's the book itself. We don't have an excuse not to study. So, in these last days, we better get busy. Because the Most High, at this point, I don't think he's very pleased with us. We doing a little bit too much. We done got a little bit too extra. All right? Okay, family, that was just a little brief video that I did on the Feast of Tabernacles, and I encourage you to study more in depth on that subject, okay? All right. Shalom.